Hello and bonjour, you are watching Power Dilemmas with Sarah Bukhari here at TAG TV.
Friends, I am here for you. I'm here for the people to make sure everyone that wants to work has access to a stable job. We will make sure when you pay your taxes, your tax dollars are respected. And as I said on the road, when you call the government, your calls will be answered. I'm telling you, you won't be stuck waiting for a doctor. And when your kids are sent to school, they will have basic math skills.
Your party with the taxpayers' dollars is over, confirmed and excited Doug Ford, the newly minted progressive conservative leader, to the most electric group of supporters in the recent progressive conservative unity rally on the 19th of March. Ford, who took the stage in front of 2,000 supporters, came across as a triumphed, uniting force for not only the Progressive Conservative Party supporters, but the Ontario taxpayers. Bombastic, yes, when he promised the PCs will form the largest majority this province has ever seen, writes Global News. Doug Ford mentioned that Kathleen Wayne wrote a lot of checks with the taxpayers' bank account, which will bounce back. Doug Ford has surrounded himself with a great team of MPP candidates, and Toronto councillor, the favorite Toronto councillor, Giorgio Mammoliti is one of them. So we have Councillor Giorgio Mammoliti with us today, and he has just announced that he's going to run in Brampton Centre to be the next MPP under the Progressive Conservative banner. Welcome to my show, Giorgio.
Thank you very much. I appreciate being on again.
And congratulations on your last evening's announcement that you will be running to be at Queen's Park under the big blue tent to be the next MPP in Brampton Centre.
Yes, and I'm excited to know that Brampton Centre, where I bought my first house, it's almost like going home and seeing my old friends and making new ones right now. I'm currently on the trail. I'm signing people up. I'm doing what I need to do to make sure that Brampton Centre gets a seat in that legislature. So for me, it's like going back home to an area that I once lived in with my family and my 3 children.
So that was the main impetus for running election from Brampton Centre. Like, how did you end up with this decision?
Well, I think it's twofold. I think, it was my old neighborhood. I bought a house, but at the same time, you have to look at, the makeup of Brampton and the wonderful people that are there. And many of them were my constituents from North York who decided to move out to Brampton over the years, over the last 28 years of my career. They've moved out here. And they're here now, and I know them, have a relationship with them, and that had a large role to play in it as well.
Okay, so Giorgio, you have been a city councillor for many, many years. What else are you bringing to Brampton Centre when you become an MPP with the Progressive Conservatives?
I think I bring experience. I think Brampton Centre wants to know that there's somebody who knows the process at Queen's Park. I spent 5 years at Queen's Park. I was the parliamentary assistant to the Solicitor General. I was the parliamentary assistant to the Minister of Health, and I was parliamentary assistant to the Minister responsible for anti-drugs and the strategy on that. And I think that with the experience at Queen's Park and how that works, and with the experience at City Hall and over the last 28 years and how that works, I think people want somebody that can cut through the chase and speak the way it is and work with the bureaucracy and with our leader and our policies to make sure that things get done, as well as changing the approach that Queen's Park has brought, which is just an incredible spend attitude, and you really can't help the most vulnerable people in society unless you stop the spending in areas that are not necessary, in my opinion.
That's so correct. So Progressive Conservative platform is liked by most of the electorate according to the latest rating on accountability and affordability cards. What is your take on it?
Well, I mean, accountability is everything, and nowadays, especially with all the big word transparency that nobody seems to abide by. By the way, I think it goes hand in hand. Accountability and transparency, for me, go hand in hand, and you need to be transparent for people to trust you, and you need to be accountable with the decisions you're making. So let's not be afraid to make decisions and be accountable for them, and explain to people why we make decisions, as opposed to what's been happening, and that is unaccountability, as far as I'm concerned. And let's just talk about hydro there for a second. That's a prime example of unaccountability.
Right. So after talking about hydro and how this present Liberal government is running the affairs of our province, Ontario, Wayne has always been saying that they are the most caring government. And now she's using this word, caring, most in her speeches. So my question is, why didn't she care about Ontario or she or her party did not care about Ontario for the past 15 years? In the morning today, in her speech, she came out with a massive budget for mental health. So where were the Liberals 15 years before if they're just caring for the province now?
Well, there's a big difference between governing and caring for people when you're in a leadership position and listening to people. And there is a difference between caring and making sure that you're listening to people. And in this particular case that you talk about, I don't think people have been listened to. I think it's how do you care about somebody if you're telling them what's best for them and not listening to their concerns if they have some before you make your decision. And I think that's how it's been governed the last 15 years, and people are sick and tired of that. They don't want people telling them what's best for them without some consultation. And I think that Doug Ford's been saying that loud and clear. Consultation is important before you make decisions. And saving money in areas that are not important is important too, because you can spend them somewhere else to where people need it the most.
Exactly. So, Giorgio, my last question: is there any message you want to give to the viewers, and what else? Like any message to our viewers?
I just want them at this point, if they support me in Brampton Centre, please sign up to be a member of the PC party, so that we can invite you to the meeting when the vote takes place. If you support our policies at Doug Ford level, please join the party and make sure that your voice is always heard, because that's what we want to hear.
Okay, wonderful, Giorgio. We wish you all the best to be the next MPP in Brampton Centre.
Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you. Talk to you soon.
Bye.
With this, we're going to take a short break, and once we come back, we are going to elaborate more on the current politics in Ontario. Stay tuned.
If you need to protect your family or business with life and health insurance, save for your retirement and children's education, or need mortgage advice, we can help. To set up your complimentary meeting, call Zahid Sayed at 905-624-0008 or visit uroojfinancial.com.
PABS Promo has become the largest suppliers of promotional products in Canada. If you're looking to get your business to the next level, then look no further and call 416-710-6777 or visit pabspromo.com. Products we provide with your logo, teardrop flags, tents and banners, t-shirts and golf shirts with logo, pens, air fresheners and keychains.
Welcome back to Power Dilemmas with Sarah Bukhari. Before the break, we were talking to Toronto councillor Giorgio Mammoliti, who has coined his name to be the next MPP in Brampton Centre. The Progressive Conservative Party is picking up lots of momentum as Premier Kathleen Wayne becomes the least popular premier in Canada with only 19% of ratings. In today's Toronto Sun story, a survey examines why the PC party is ahead in the polls. Doug Ford is finding traction with Ontario voters by talking about government's accountability, affordability, and cutting waste. At the same time, Premier Kathleen Wayne's key talking points boosting the minimum wage and pharmacare appear at the bottom of a list of priorities for the electorate, says campaign research based on its recent poll of voters. We have Mr. Ari Laskin with us, who is a political strategist with Capitol Hill Group, to talk about this and more. Hello, Ari. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. How are you doing, Sarah?
Good. Welcome to my show. So, Ari, this week, the Premier of Ontario, Kathleen Wayne, prorogued the legislature and delivered her throne speech. Our viewers would like to know, what is the meaning of proroguing the legislature?
So basically what happens when you prorogue the legislature is you say to the Lieutenant Governor that we want to end this session of Parliament and start a new session. And the only way that one is able to start a new session is through prorogation, which can occur either from the Premier approaching the Lieutenant Governor and asking for that, or through a general election. In this case, the Premier approached Her Honor, the Lieutenant Governor, asked for prorogation so that she could deliver the throne speech, which the only way to do a throne speech is after you prorogue the Parliament.
But why did she have to end the session, because we will be having our elections on June the 7th?
Well, that's a good question. I know that the Premier will have one answer. The way that I'm looking at this is they wanted to set the stage for what they're going to be running on. We've known for quite some time that this budget that they're going to be presenting on the 28th is basically an election budget. I wouldn't be surprised if you see a lot of things that people have been asking for over the past 15 years. Suddenly there's money for these programs being granted. The way that she was able to sort of set the stage and deliver the themes of the budget was through this throne speech.
Okay, so Ari, I'm just going to ask you a very interesting question, or I hope if you find it interesting. Why is Kathleen Wayne the least popular premier in Canada? This is today's news.
Question right there. Very interesting question. There's a number of reasons why I think that she's struggling with her personal support in the polls. 15 years for one party to be in government is an awful long time. I think that governments, no matter the political stripe, after this amount of time, often become stale. Often their ideas are the same old, and people want to hear something new and different. The Premier has done a great job of saying the same thing for the past 15 years. Well, for her, it's been less than 15 years. But she's been saying the same themes. The themes that are fairness, access, equality, which are important themes. Don't get me wrong. These are incredibly important themes. But at some point, the Ontario voter looks at themselves and says, am I really better off with Kathleen Wynne and the Liberal government being in power for this long, or is there a better option? And I think in this stage, people are looking at Doug Ford as he is the better option that we should be looking at. He's speaking all the right things: accountability, transparency, and fairness for the taxpayer.
Yes, and my next question is, of course, connected to the accountability portion, as this one survey by Campaign Research found that making life more affordable for Ontarians and accountability to the citizens of Ontario are the two most overt policy planks valued by voters, followed by improving the healthcare system and cutting waste in government. What is your take on it, Ari?
It makes perfect sense. Voters want to be respected. At the end of the day, the people that we elect to represent us at Queen's Park or on Parliament Hill or in City Hall, City Council, are there to serve us. They are there to be public servants. We expect our public servants to be open with us and not to lie to us, not to mislead us or promise us something that they know that they can't deliver. I think for far too long, voters in Canada and in Ontario have tried to put, as they say, rose-colored lenses on, so that they only see the nice things that exist, without looking at the cold, hard realities that if you want the nice things in life, you have to pay for them. And the only way that you can pay for the nice things or have the nice things is if you have a solid revenue stream coming in, or if you're not spending or misspending money. Right now, we're seeing increasingly long wait times for healthcare services. You have so many instances and cases, or stories rather, of people being waited on in hospital hallways. You have people that are waiting to get their driver's license, but because of the backlog with the IT systems and at Service Ontario, they're not able to. So these sorts of things and waste that's going into these programs, you can't just keep throwing money at a problem and hoping it's going to improve itself. You have to take real steps, and you have to roll your sleeves up, as they say, and maybe get your hands a little dirty to find out where these efficiencies are. I'm quite confident that Mr. Ford is going to be able to do that.
Okay, let's talk about the sex ed curriculum, which was among the lowest priority issues, which is actually now the lowest priority issue for voters, while it was big issue in the PC leadership context. What do you think about this, Ari?
I think that you're going to see, regardless of the party, you're going to see these, I don't like using the term fringe ideas, but for lack of a better term right now, these fringe ideas that are not part of the mainstream conversation, sort of these one-off policy ideas, they come into the fray. And they are things that people in party politics really focus on, because that sort of sets the stage as to what that person's ideologies are. Are they willing to listen to me? Are they just going to shut the door and say, well, you don't agree with me, so you really don't have a voice? And I think that's very indicative of any party leadership contest. You probably saw this in the last Liberal leadership. You saw it in the NDP leadership. And you'll see it in the PC leadership. This is stuff that's never going to go away, because these are important issues. I think with regards to the sex ed curriculum in Ontario now, pardon me, we have a lot of important things and a lot of really urgent issues that we have to tackle. I truly believe that parents should have knowledge as to what their children are being taught in schools. I think that parents should have some input into this. Do I think that the sex ed curriculum is the biggest issue that's affecting our province today? No, I don't.
Okay, good. Wayne, if you focus on how Wayne has been talking, like in the previous years and now, there is a change in her tone. From the fair rhetoric, she's now jumped to the care rhetoric. So the question, I was just reading this article by Tasha Carradine in the morning, and she's all talking about caring for Ontario. And the question is, why didn't the Liberals care for Ontario in the past 15 years?
Well, I think it was pretty clear that this is a campaign move. This is campaign language 101. Fairness didn't work, so let's try talking about caring. I think right now the Premier and the Ontario Liberal Party are taking a hard tack to the left, because they know that they're not going to be getting that centrist vote. The centrist vote is probably going to be going to Mr. Ford and the Progressive Conservatives. So they're trying to gain whatever new Democrat votes that they can get and try to split that vote. Now, that works out very well for Mr. Ford and his team, because there's a lot of people that are sick and tired of this, let's just throw money at an idea and hope for the best. They want to see real action, they want to see real innovation, and they want to see real change. I think that Ms. Wynn's approach to caring for Ontarians is something that should have been done 15 years ago.
Okay, Ari, it's always so good to hear from you. And
always a pleasure.
Thank you so much for joining in, and I will talk to you next week, hopefully. And that
Sounds great.
Awesome. That was Mr. Ari Laskin of Capitol Hill Group. In local news, Service Canada moves away from calling Canadians Mr., Mrs. or Miss. Frontline workers asked to use gender-neutral term parent instead of mother or father. This avoids portraying a perceived bias towards a particular sex or gender. says a copy of speaking notes prepared for managers and team leaders. It is important that Service Canada as an organization reflects Canada's diverse population and ensures that the views and interests of Canadians are taken into account when we develop policies, programs, services, and initiatives, says this directive. So viewers, what do you think of this initiative by the government, where the government officers, the frontline workers, cannot use the word Mr., Miss, or Mrs.? Please like our page, Power Dilemmas with Sarah Bukhari. Keep watching Power Dilemmas. Ciao.